I think it was in fifth grade when I was walking from Sunnyview playing Little League Baseball, where I was walking home, predominantly white neighborhood, 2.5 miles from my house, walking past a house, and a little boy came out and called me the N-word. And I looked at him, and he looked at me, and I would say he was probably third grade. I was in fifth grade or second grade. He was, and I said, you need to go talk to your mother about that. So when it happened to me, I'm thinking, okay, this is the norm, so get used to it. And what I didn't realize that this will continue my entire life. That first time that something like that happened to me, that was just the beginning.
A continuing series of small indignities.
In elementary school, the white kids were surrounded by black kids.
A short film about Rodney Harris, who grew up in Clinton Township, southeast Macomb County. He went to Eastern Michigan University. He'd marry Karen, his college sweetheart, and spend nearly 4 decades as a retail manager, now retired. Harris is talking to the film's director, Michael Fantner, about how and why the film was made.
I happened to read an article that someone wrote about what was called the black male code, which was essentially a conversation that parents would have with a teenage son, basically explaining the rules, how the world works, and what you need to just navigate if you want to come out alive. And I posted that.
I think it was February 2012 when Trayvon got murdered, and you had posted something on Facebook, and I'm going like, yeah, growing up black in America, you want stories? I have stories, which I really haven't talked to anyone about. And I just recall, before everything started when I was 10 years old, I was in a, looking back, I was in a safe community because I never got mistreated. So once I got outside that community, that's when everything started.
Yeah, that's where we met, is in 6th grade.
One of the things I always realized is in English was a hard subject for me because at home you spoke broken English. So all those questions, what people will ask you, which I never asked the white kids this, why do you wear bell bottoms? You start to think that things are different. Looking back, you always wonder, why Quinn Road? Well, that's where black people were, So if you looked in Macomb County, entire Macomb County, the black people were in southeast Macomb County, which is Quinn Road area, which was about a mile square, 14 to 15 mile, Gratiot to Harper.
Harris starred in 3 sports at Clintondale High School, where, in the early 70s, there were very few other African Americans.
Sophomore year, Colleen was in my U.S. history class. That summer of our junior year, I asked her out. My football coaches started looking at me differently when they saw me with her. Notice a change, a huge change. I was one of the better athletes in school. Definitely saw an attitude change with all my coaches. Just little things all over the place. Why are you trying to wreck your career? And I was a starting quarterback since 10th grade. My senior year, they took me out of playing quarterback and switched me to a running back, which I was fine with. I knew my future wasn't in football at all, and I got to play defense a little bit more. So I thought that was good for me, but sometimes looking back, you kind of wonder, were they doing this for the good of the football team or, to somehow punish me?
You were a popular athlete in school.
Yeah.
And a lot of us were, me included, were pretty oblivious to what your life was like, what you were observing. You've got people that want you to kind of educate them about, I don't know, maybe it's just another level of what I did with my movie. You've got this responsibility on your shoulders now as a spokesman for your entire race.
We can go back to the film, right?
Yeah.
In one of my complaints, I don't know if it's a complaint, it's more like the truth. I was educating my white friends about the black race, about the black culture, because they didn't have any diversity in them whatsoever. So, I went back to the parents and talked about the parents. What did the parents do to help my white friends understand different cultures? And there was nothing. And so now, fast forward 50 years, doing the same thing, but I've been doing it all my life. So there's no change. We can fast forward to us buying the house that you're sitting in right now. We knew a young lady that was a realtor, and we were looking for a place to live, a house to buy. So she's telling us where not to look. And I'm going, really? And she goes, well, these are the areas in metropolitan Detroit that you don't want anything to do with because of you being a mixed couple. And she goes, I'm just telling you like it is. You think about it, okay, in the 60s, oh, okay, 70, okay, 80, okay. Well, we're in 1991 now. Same thing's happening. Is the same thing happening today? Most definitely. If you talk about college and universities, so what college and universities are culturally mixed? Vic University, Central Michigan.
It's true. If you're comparing...
Is Western Michigan?
That's a good point.
Is Michigan State? So what?
Maybe U of M and Wayne State.
Maybe University of Detroit.
Yeah.
So these people go out to colleges, they don't get that culture.
It just reinforces.
So once again, we can talk about my daughter going from high school to University of Michigan, being on the University of Michigan marching band, where they had 450 members in the marching band, and maybe a dozen, maybe 12 were of color.
That's it.
And then those 12 of color, half of those came from our high school. So what kind of culture are they learning there in the marching band? Just the marching band, not the university, just the marching band. So your whole life, you're living in this bubble, and you continue in this bubble, and you don't go outside your bubble. And I'm not saying everyone, but too many people don't go outside their bubble. So every time I think about Muna, who's my full Cherokee Indian great grandmother, I start thinking of my father being born in 1915. Struggles he had in Mississippi. Some I knew about, I'm sure some I never dream about. I think about my older brother that graduated in high school from Mount Clemens in 1951. What did he go through? That I graduated in 1975 and what I went through. And I'm hoping it's easier. In 2012, when we started this conversation, you end up making a film, so now it's 8 years later. And I do come across some people, and they're not black, they're not people of color. I do come across some people and say, well, things are better. Things are a lot better. Now, don't you think, asking me, don't you think?
Do you feel the needle has moved at all in those 8 years?
No, not at all. Yes, so I take that back. Yes, it's moved back. Which might be shocking to some people, not shocking to me, but it's moved backwards. It hasn't stayed still. It's moved backwards. I think with the present administration, social media, they feel more comfortable. The people that don't celebrate diversity, they feel more comfortable speaking out against diversity. And I think about, how tolerant I am. When, I get pulled over by the police for no reason, and I'm tolerant, because I've been doing so since 10 years old.